Hi Aries, welcome to your end of May 2019 tarot update. Katrina here. I'm using the Wild Unknown Tarot deck, which is part of my let's say repertoire. Okay. So the heart of the matter is the Ten of Pentacles. This is a great money card. This can be money that comes from your own doing, but it is connected to family. So it can be inheritance, or if there's some kind of a family business that is kind of like featured in your life at this time. Maybe you're being asked to run it or kind of manage it in some way, and that could be a good thing, that could be a challenging thing depending on other factors. I think that Aries people like to be independent though, and you like to run things, but you also like to be independent. So there could be a bit of a clash if you feel like the sense of like obligation, but you really don't want to do something along these lines. But it could just be, hey, you're really doing well financially, and this could. I always like associate this particular card with Capricorn. So if this is a person that you're seeing, of all the earth signs, I think Capricorn is the one that catches your eye the most. The other earth signs are Virgo and Taurus, but I always associate the Ten of Pentacles with Capricorn because of Capricorn is the 10th house. And so, yeah, it could be something along those lines. We have here in the past position the Father of Swords. Again, maybe your literal father who you're helping him, with his business. This corresponds with the King of Swords. So sometimes this can be like a judge rendering a decision. And again, that might have something to do with like inheritance. So there, this is in the upright position. It may not be like any kind of fight for the inheritance, but, by virtue of inheritances in general, you might say that sometimes they do tend to bring out the worst in people, money in general, if there's some kind of shared resources, which is the 8th house. And I'm trying to think, okay, so ding, ding, ding. Okay, so we're having, I was kind of in my mind thinking of astrological transits, and as I record this, we have not yet had the full moon in Scorpio. I swear to God, I'm recording this on May 12th, and it's almost like I think it's already starting, because like today was intense for me. I don't know about any of you, Sunday, May 12th. I mean, as soon as I got on the train, I heard somebody fighting, with somebody, and then, on their cell phone, and then I got into it with my partner, and I was on the phone, and it just felt like a little bit off, you know what I mean? And very like, on edge. So, and I was thinking about that full moon, but I wasn't thinking, that it could be affecting. I was thinking, is that possible? But it is in Scorpio, and that is very intense. And, so for you, the 8th house, you have every house corresponding with its actual house, since you are the first sign. So the eighth house can be shared resources, inheritances, and things like that. Now the full moon can bring out some secrets with that. And the eighth house can be about things coming up to the surface that were, with the full moon, it could bring things out. The eighth house is what lies beneath the surface. This could be the shadow. So yeah, I mean, that could be something that is being you're dealing with. And then the higher message is the Nine of Wands. And I think this is a kind of an unusual depiction of the Nine of Wands. Nine of Wands is about boundaries. Not sure what the steps have to do with it, but maybe there's like things that are kind of barriers, but boundaries, meaning that this is a spiritual message. So maybe you need to learn boundaries for some reason, Aries, that have to do with this particular Ten of Pentacles issue. It's funny, like telling Aries about boundaries, because really you're the one that sometimes may invade other people's boundaries, because you're very forthright and you're just very like a steamroller. It's like if you want something, you go after it, and you don't take no for an answer sometimes. But on the flip side, you may be dealing with siblings and you're very generous, and they may be exhibiting bad behavior, and you just want them to be happy, and you might give into bad behavior. Who knows? I mean, you may have your reasons for it, why you're doing this, but the point is that this is a spiritual lesson. If you're dealing with whoever that Ten of Pentacles represents, if this is a love interest, again, you have to have an understanding of when somebody crosses the line and not to let them do it. But at the same time, not get ugly, not do something that is uncalled for. So this is why sometimes anger management is so difficult, because it's like sometimes people think not getting angry is just tolerating bad behavior. Well, that's letting somebody cross your boundaries. When you tell somebody, no, you're not going to treat me like that, I'm not going to stand for it, I'm not going to stand here and listen to you talk to me like this, and then you follow through, you let them know what they can get away with. And there's a saying, you teach people how to treat you. So something is going on, and because the Father of Swords is involved, it could be like a family drama, and this may go back quite a bit, and feeling that somebody was somebody else's favorite, the whole narcissist situation. The Father of Swords, if this is a father, could be somebody who didn't show their emotions. They were kind of in their head, and that created a lot of doubt about how, if this person cared, and maybe you were not the one who was favored, sibling was, and you're finding out that it never ends, where it's like it's always something. And these are like catalysts, these experiences, for us to really get a window of insight into what has occurred, because I really believe that there's a lot of denial out there. And it's not to say that it's about blaming anybody, because if you really are a spiritual person, you realize that these things do happen for a reason. And I know that sounds like a cliche, cheesy cliche, but it's, when I say it happens for a reason, it's happening with a purpose. And that purpose may not be known to you, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. That it's not randomly happening. You're not a victim. You may feel like one, but you're not, and you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay, even though it might not feel okay. If there's a new person in your life, be careful about having a wall up. Maybe the Father of Swords was an ex, or your father, and was callous, and you really got hurt by this person, and you're afraid you're going to get hurt again. That's a common theme. So you have to be willing to risk in love. What crosses you is represented by the Six of Wands. This is a card of, it's an interesting depiction of the Six of Wands, which is a card of taking your victory lap. So having success, I'm just trying to put in my, what do you call it, cord, because it's about to go out. Good. I'm glad I solved that problem. Yeah, the Six of Wands is about recognition for what you have done, and I think it's safe to say that there is a career element to it. So in the challenge position, you may feel a sense of failure about something career-wise. Now, getting back to my original idea of the family business, it could be one of those things where you were in between jobs and you had a family member say, hey, come and work at our business. And even though it's going to pay the bills, you still can't get over this idea that you're a failure because something didn't work out. And the thing is, I think for Aries, you really put a lot of pressure on yourself to succeed. And I think you are, by and large, a sign of consistent success. I would attribute that to being a cardinal fire sign, because I feel that fire energy is all about expansion. So typically, fire signs will never be satisfied with what they have and always keep striving. But then you add the cardinal modality and you have somebody who is always taking action. I notice, I do a lot of observing of signs based on people I know, and that's how I hone in on kind of the more subtle aspects of what goes on. And I've noticed a consistency among cardinal signs of all stripes. So the 4 cardinal signs are Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn. And so if you have personal planets in some of those other cardinal signs, then you have even more cardinal energy. And they are the doers, okay? I'm trying not to laugh. Okay, so I'm a Sagittarian. I like to flap my gums. I like to talk a lot. But you know what? Taking action is where it's at. You can have the greatest ideas, you can really talk about them, but until you put them into action, they're just words, right? So this is why it's so important that an Aries person have the freedom to take action in the way that they deem best. If you feel like your hands are tied. That's going to be pretty torturous to you. You want to have that sense of autonomy where you can like make a decision and maybe change it if you feel that it's not the right thing to do. When you work for somebody else, you have to go along with their game plan, and it's really their dreams, whatever it is that they're doing. And that can be very hard for an Aries person to do what somebody else wants them to do. And yet, this may be an important step for you, even if it's temporary. So don't get caught up in your ego, because it might be that you feel a blow to your ego, that you feel like, oh, I have to accept this. Maybe it's family support financially. Maybe it's not like working in a business, but there's somebody's giving you money, and you feel that sense of like, now I'm going to be under their thumb. And if you can look at it as temporary, then you can kind of rise above it. And the other thing too is watch out for, if you've met somebody like this Ten of Pentacles, they may be very successful and you may feel somewhat inferior to them. And Aries is a very competitive sign, so you may compare yourself even to your lover. And that's foolish. That doesn't make any sense. And that could lead to you saying something snarky, trying to cut them down to size, and then the relationship goes bye-bye. The advice is the Five of Cups, and this is to look at your moods, gauge your moods. Where are you feeling disappointed? So we have this card and we have the Six of Wands in reverse. I'm trying to think of something astrological that could be affecting you. One of the things that I think is important to, with Aries, I have noted all of these changes that Aries has gone through. With Uranus going through your sign, now out, but still may have left a lot of kind of sudden shifts in its wake. And the square to Pluto, and actually the square to Pluto is from your 10th house of career. So we'll just speak on that specifically. You may have felt this frustration that you try to get ahead, and it feels like you get in your own way. And this is because you're squaring off from the first house to the 10th house. And that can create a sense of whatever it is that you come across as being is not working with career. It's clashing with it right now. And this is nothing new. This has been there for a long time. And this may have led some of you to even experience a real career collapse in the past, where you were on top and then it was like a fall from grace and you had to pick up the pieces. And you know what? Pluto is about transformation, and Pluto doesn't take any prisoners. Pluto is serious as a heart attack, okay? It's not playing games, but it's also going to make you better. And then now I'm going to go into a $6 million man, better than you ever were, faster, stronger, that kind of thing. So that's one of the reasons why I really don't like it when people say, oh my God, Pluto, oh my God, Saturn, because Saturn is in your 10th house too, and that's good. That's really good for you know, really anchoring your career and keeping it at a place where for years to come you can, you know, you have this stuff nailed down. But the thing is, because you're you and you're an Aries, and it happens to be Saturn, and it happens to be in the 10th house, it may feel oppressive to you because it's forming a square. And you feel like frustrated, and you feel like your hands are tied. And yeah, maybe your hands are tied because you know what? Sometimes you have to be forced to reckon with what is true in this moment. And maybe you don't want to see certain things. And Pluto certainly will dredge things up from below the surface to, and also expose the things that are very toxic. So in career issues, you may have even seen some kind of behavior around you that was not ethical, and that could have caused the fall from grace as well. While Pluto's in that 10th house, you have to guard against trying to get ahead by nefarious means. Pluto is connected to karma, and it will smack you upside the head if you don't watch out. So, especially instant karma, you know. So don't be tempted, but also watch the people around you. Make sure that you're only dealing with people who are, you know, have shown themselves to be in integrity, because you could get caught up in their shady things, and you don't want to. So don't be gullible. Don't just believe what you hear. If somebody gives you a real spiel, check it out. Make sure that it checks out and that it's legit. The outcome is the World card, so definitely some kind of chapter closing in your life at the end of May. And, you know, I would be obviously flexible with that. Maybe it even is talking about the lunar eclipse in July, and that will be in your 10th house of career. So that can, you know, that will be some major change. You're having eclipses in July that are in your 4th house. The solar eclipse will be in Cancer in your 4th house of home and family. And then 2 weeks later on the 16th, a lunar eclipse in your 10th house of career and the father. Something leaving, something ending. And, you know, it could be like if you have had a problem with your father, that you just say that's enough, that you finally find boundaries. You know, you finally decide that you know that you don't deserve this. And I think that Six of Wands in the challenge position could be working on that sense of worthiness, especially if you have a moon in Virgo, Pisces, Cancer, or Venus and or Mars in Pisces, where this has been a theme for you, that even though you're an Aries, that you have a tendency to have a hard time standing up for yourself in a constructive way too. And the other thing too is if you have the sun in the 12th house, or maybe even the moon or Mars in the 12th, because that can kind of shade a little bit towards Piscean traits with some of these inner planets. And so anyway, I think that this is a month of transition for you, and possibly some kind of money issue at the end of this month comes to a head. Maybe it's not even totally at the end of this month. Maybe it's during that Scorpio full moon, where you discover something that has been going on and you didn't even know about it, or you are, it can be also just finalizing something. But I also see that in July, you could be dealing with career matters that maybe just deciding to seemingly very suddenly to depart from a particular career or retire. Maybe you were planning on working until you're 70 and you've just had it. And you might even be only 62 and you said, you know what, I thought I was going to retire when I was 70. I'm going to early retire. Whatever. But some of these things could be felt in June, but this is for the end of May. So like I was saying, I'm wondering if I am feeling that if that full moon in Scorpio is going to be a doozy, and if you're going to really have a lot of revelations that connect with shared resources, and by because of that, other people's true nature starts to emerge, and you see them acting a certain way, and you're like, oh, okay, and you file that away for future reference because you know that things haven't been quite right, and this kind of confirms your suspicions. So anyway, Aries, I hope that you enjoyed this. If you'd like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.